everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And we're really excited today because we are here to talk about animation in a new, exciting way. I'm really excited about this concept that we're doing. And if you like that, you might like this. We're giving some recommendations. We're trying to get you to dig a little deeper. And so we have some of the most popular recent animated films, and we're going to give you some suggestions, hopefully a little more obscure, a little more off the beaten path, that you probably haven't watched, or you might not have watched in a while, that are worth checking out. And of course, I couldn't do this alone. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Mat Brunet is here.
Hey everybody, I can't wait to be your recommendation page of the day.
Yes, and I would love if people came back to us and reported back on all these recommendations and let us know what you think and what you would suggest. So if people it's kind of the idea. What got me thinking about this is I was thinking about how with Neja 2 and K-pop Demon Hunters releasing in theaters the same weekend, they really have a lot of similarities between the two of them. And if somebody liked one, maybe they'd like the other. And it kind of got me thinking that it might be a fun sort of concept. I mean, both are about demon hunters and demons, and both are
not to mention the exploration of different Asian cultures, where Noja 2 looks into Chinese mythology, whereas K-pop Demon Hunters is more about Korean culture, and a little bit of that mythology as well, but it's mainly about the culture.
Yeah, and they both have this sort of the fun action and those elements. So I think there's some similarities there. So that's sort of the concept. And I was so excited that you were up for it. You wanted to do it.
Yeah, I felt like it was a great idea, honestly, especially to go and actually give a spotlight to some of the lesser known animated features out there. And I mean, this is already like a great idea that I can imagine, like, I'll say now for the future, like, we could really go and expand on this. Yeah. I know, like, I remember when we started this, like, I had like many different ideas of what we could do, but it's probably easiest to stick with this list. So I can imagine that, like, maybe one time now we'll do like some of the more recent animated movies out there, but then we could also do like classics. That'd be
like fun.
There's a lot of possibilities out there.
Yeah, we could take like the Disney canon, or maybe like DreamWorks or somebody like that. And if you like this, you might like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let us know what you think and what you'd like us to talk about in future episodes. And the guideline that we were kind of going off of for this is I found a 15 best animated movies of the 2020s so far. This is from Robert Lee over at Collider, and he has a pretty good mixture of more obscure stuff with the main Encanto and stuff like that, but I thought this would be a good, since they're all within the last 5 years, this would be kind of a good base, and then we would go off of our recommendations from there. So, let's dive in. I'll put a link to this list, the Collider article, in the description. Y'all can check it out. Let's dive in. So the first one is probably the most obscure movie on this list. It's called The House. And this is a collection of 3 different short stories. And they're all told using stop motion, and they use, it sort of has like a felt aesthetic. Is the way that the characters look. That it takes place in a singular house as it haunts and terrifies its owners from across time, from a poor and struggling family to an anxious land developer to a fed-up landlady. The mysterious house continues to find ways to inflict pain and nightmares upon its hosts. The film, however, is as much dark comedy as it is horror film, so the preceding events are as strangely hilarious as their execution is. So what did you think? This was, I think, one of the hardest ones.
Yeah, it is. Like, you could feel like the dark tone that's just really coming out of you. It's like there's this heaviness that you get when watching this. It's like there is that small element of fun that you may recognize in animated features, but at the same time, like when it really does get serious, it does feel like it gets pretty somber at times.
Hmm.
It's not a criticism towards the movie itself, because like it is still very well done. It's just it's one of those movies you have to really prepare yourself to get into.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking of more sort of the dark, the drier humor part of it, is because I haven't seen this one since it came out, so I was going back a little ways, as opposed to that. That summary makes it sound really scary, but and so I wasn't thinking. I was thinking more of the sort of the dark humor, but you could definitely do. I think Isle of Dogs is one I thought of, or any of the Leica, but. I was also thinking of that 3-act structure. And so I did Big Bad Fox and Other Tales. And this doesn't really have the horror elements, but it definitely has the dry sense of humor element to it.
Yeah, I do see. I do see that, especially when, like, I will admit, out of all of the movies here, this is the one that was hardest to go and actually find something to actually have like a recommendation towards.
Yeah.
Especially like it does feel like it's more unique, where it is a little bit like partly horror. It's also an anthology, so it's not easy to go and find some, and it's stop motion, so it's not easy to really go and find something like that.
Yeah. Another one that I love, this is just an animated short, but I do love it. It's a little short called Foxed, and it's by animator James Stewart, and it's a really good little horror short. If you like shorts about this girl who's basically imprisoned by these foxes, and it's really cool. You should look it up.
Okay.
That would be a fun one if you wanted to go the horror route.
Yeah. Now, I will say for mine, honestly, it's like, as I said, it was very tough to find something. I went with Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, mainly because that is another animated anthology movie, and what's very interesting with this one is that you got the main storyline that is going on with the little girl and the prophet himself, especially it's noteworthy how it does have like a surprisingly recognizable cast. I mean, you got Liam Neeson, Salma Hayek, John Krasinski, Alfred Molina, and a few others. But what's very fascinating is how in each of the stories they present, it actually has a very different animation style, and it's done by several different noteworthy artists. Like you got the Breezy Twins, you got Tom Moore, you got Bill Plimpton, you got Nina Paley. You got all of these people who worked in movies and comics, and they would all go and create their own little segment about life, about just.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, about little aspects that they would go through. And honestly, for me, like, I'm kind of surprised to see that the reviews are not so great to it, because I personally find it to be an absolute delight. And I think this is something that animation fans would I think animation fans would love to go and check out, because in a way there is like partly this celebration of the artistry of animation that goes into it, and showing all these different styles. Like I remember there was actually one time when I was very frustrated with the cartoon community, and I mean, with how they are nowadays, you can imagine like why, and especially in my case. But I remember I was like, it was one of those moments, like I was so fed up with the cartoon community that it also gave me a resentment on animation. But when I watched that movie, like, it regained my love of like, why is it that I enjoy animation, why I love the medium so much. So yeah, I like, that is one that I would recommend. But there is also another thing I do want to say. As you were describing the synopsis of the house, like, there was one that just popped into my head, and I was like, why didn't I think of this before? Because there's another movie that feels very similar. It sounds similar, but it doesn't have the horror aspect, and that is Fantastic Mr. Fox. Now, I know Fantastic Mr. Fox is definitely one of the more popular ones out there, but it does have a lot of the similarities, especially with all the, like, you got stop motion anthropomorphic animals going around. There is the threat of losing their home from like humans and stuff like that.
That's true. That's a good point.
But in the case of Fantastic Mr. Fox, it's a lot more lighthearted. It's a lot easier to go and get into, especially with the cinematic stylings of Wes Anderson. So there is that going on. So if you want something like The House, but you want less scary and more fun, then Fantastic Mr. Fox is for you.
Yeah, I think that the Bird Boy. Have you ever seen that, the Bird Boy animated movie? That's more
I've
like,
heard of it. I haven't seen it before.
Yeah, that's more apocalyptic in feel, but definitely has a darker sense of darker feel to it. That one might be interesting as well, if you're looking for something along those lines. Or I guess you could also. I mean, it's about a house that's possessed. So you could watch Monster House.
Yeah, there is that.
That's a great movie.
Or considering this is about animals who are losing their home from in a way from like humans and stuff like that. Like another one, and especially if you want
Secret of Nim.
Secret of Nim. I was about to say Watership Down.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like especially for that. If you like that dark tone, then you could get more of that there.
We could spend the whole episode just on the house. Who knew? Who knew?
Exactly.
Very good. All right. So then next we have Encanto, and everybody knows what Encanto is about. Of course, about our family madrigal musical. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was pretty obvious what I wanted to pick for this one would be Vivo. Also has music by Lin-Manuel. Has a similar sort of little bit of a hybrid style CGI animation. I feel like the style is somewhat similar in the animation, the colors, the feel. They both have a Latin sort of inspiration feel,
like Latin America or tropical America.
Yeah, and have the same very similar music. Very enjoyable. I think a lot of people missed Vivo because it just went straight to streaming, and I like it. The little girl's a little grating, but other than that, I think it's very enjoyable little movie.
Yeah. Honestly, I was disappointed to see that on your list because that's the one I wanted to go. Yeah. I feel like that is like the easiest one and the most direct.
Yeah, it is.
If you like Encanto, you'll also enjoy Vivo. Especially like there's a lot of parallels between the two. Not really just the fact that like they're both animated musicals. They're both released in 2021. They're both like set in the tropical Americas where that is kind of a prominent theme. And they both have a soundtrack from Lin-Manuel Miranda. And although I will say in terms of like why it's not as popular nowadays, it's mainly because I feel, at least like from my perspective, it's mainly because like you got the pandemic, but it's also from the fact that there has just been like it was released around the time like in that year where there have been other popular movies that came out, especially when a few months prior Sony Animation also released The Mitchells vs. the Machines on Netflix, and that ended up taking like in terms of Netflix animated movies at that time, that was the one that probably took the most attention. So that's why Vivo, like, it was successful when it first came out, but it's not like as noteworthy as The Mitchells vs. the Machines. But yeah, I will say, like, I absolutely do agree. Like, maybe it's not like the absolute best musical that you could find. And I understand how the girl, like, she's almost at the levels of being cringe, but it's still a lot of fun and honestly very admirable what they do, like with the animation, with the choreography, the cinematography, but also with the music as well. Like honestly, this soundtrack is amazing. And I'll even say One of a Kind is one of my favorite Lin-Manuel Miranda songs.
Yeah, like it is awesome. It is good. Yeah, really good songs, and a sweet story at the end of the day. So yeah, I think people should check it out. It is.
Honestly, I'll even add that this and Surf's Up are both the most underrated animated films from Sony Animation. Like these are ones that honestly they deserve another chance in the spotlight, and they have a lot of creative merit that should be admired, honestly. Yeah,
I personally would throw Smurfs Lost Village. I think that's actually quite underrated. But yeah, I agree. I think those are both really solid. So what do you have for your Encanto suggestion?
You know, it's honestly harder than I thought, because it's like, if it's not Vivo, then what else? So I tried digging deep into it and try to think about it, but then I noticed there was one movie that, surprisingly, as we're recording this, did gain some traction and a bit of popularity on Disney Plus, and that is the 2011 Blue Sky film Rio. I feel like that's another one that has some similarities, because not a full-on musical, but it is like partly a musical.
A lot of music.
It had like music is a prominent theme, especially with the song "Real in Rio."
Good call. Yeah.
The animation is also pretty similar, especially with how it is vibrantly colorful. The world building really sets itself in Latin America, or like directly in Latin America, since it is in Rio de Janeiro. And there is that element that is partly based on family as well, or at least with romance between the Blue Macaws and with the owners as well. So, I know that Rio may not be like the most noteworthy or like the best of the best in terms of what Blue Sky would go and put out there. But it is, it's still fun. Like, it still has a lot of its strong merits that does make it enjoyable in its own right.
Yeah. I agree. That's a good pick. I'm glad you picked that.
Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics Panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie-making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night, or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Right. So next up, we have Mitchell's vs. Machines. You talked about it. And of course, this is about our road trip that goes quite awry with the Mitchells. And I loved this movie so much when it came out. It really spoke to me, and especially her being like a filmmaker, and just so many different parts of it were wonderful. But I think if you want a good swap, the Big City Greens Spacecation movie that came out last year, it's basically the same movie. I mean, the plot is almost identical, except for they go to space versus going to, and you've got the dad who's not wanting to let go of his daughter, and the conflict there, and it's like aliens opposed to robots, but it very similar. Both I'd never seen Big City Greens, but I thought it was really solid little movie.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen the movie myself, but I mean, I've heard a lot of fun stuff about Big City Green. So, like, the most that I've seen is honestly the cameo from Fozzie Bear where he played a dentist. So, it's mostly that. But I'll have to consider checking it out.
Yeah, and you didn't have to watch the show to get it.
Oh, that's good.
Which is nice.
Yeah. But for my pick, honestly, I actually thought back, and I would go with the one that I've made, like, ever since I first saw it. I think, like, one that is very similar is, well, technically, nowadays especially, is probably more popular than The Mitchells vs. the Machines, a Goofy movie.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah, like, even though, yes, Goofy and Max don't go on this, like, robot apocalypse adventure. Yes, that element is not in there, but the heart of the picture is very similar to Mitchells vs. the Machines, where it's basically this dad who decides to go on a road trip with his kid in order to try to go and have some bonding time with him, especially with the fact that their relationship isn't necessarily the best, especially when they're like a teenager, young adult. They're around that age where they kind of want to separate themselves from their parents, and like they feel like staying with the family is a bit of a hindrance, but like through their wild, crazy attempt, they try to go and make a bond with their family member. So, but then of course, like, even though it's not as apocalyptic as the Mitchells vs. the Machines, they do, like, the chaos does ensue onto their trip. But that is another one that I would recommend.
I just saw it at the D23 anniversary fan event, and that was really fun. They encouraged people to like come up to the front of the theater. Everybody's dancing, singing, but there was glow sticks. It was a blast. It was really fun. Yeah.
That's nice.
So I'm a big fan I have a lot of nostalgia for Goofy Movie. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so next we have Soul. And so I was trying to think of a movie that involves the afterlife or spirituality in some way, that also involves animals. The first one that came to mind is All Dogs Go to Heaven, because this also involves animals and the afterlife. It's bonkers. If you watch it now, you're just like, wow, they were on a fever dream with that one. But there's definitely elements of Soul that are bonkers and crazy. So yeah, it's I think it's a little bit of the Don Bluth main movies. It's probably the least. I'm not talking about like his ones that nobody saw, but of his like main popular ones, I feel like it's one of it's the lowest one. Yeah, of the 80s. It's like the lowest one. But it's entertaining. It's been a bit since I saw it, but yeah, I remember being entertained by it.
No, it's still very solid as is.
Yeah, solid.
It's probably not fair to compare it to like An American Tail or Land Before Time or especially Secret of Nim, but it still like holds very well for what it does, and it still has a lot of great heart, and not to mention beautiful animation. I mean, this is Don Bluth we're talking about, so this is like full-on masterclass hand-drawn animation that they've displayed in this, and even like with the themes of spirituality and stuff like that, although not as deep, I don't find it to be as deep as Soul, but I do understand where like the themings can draw a bit of parallels, where it's about like make your life, make your life worthwhile.
Yeah, because he's a gambler. He's not a good guy, and he's so.
No, he's a gambler. He's a con artist. Like, like trust me, he's one of those guys where like he'll screw you over if you ever encounter him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what did you have for Soul?
Man, Soul is another one that was honestly tricky, but I tried to think about it, and I think I found one good comparison, and especially it does help that it is from Pixar, Coco. I feel like Coco is actually a great comparison, considering that not only is it a movie that discusses about life and a legacy and stuff like that, but also there is that element of music. Now, sure, with Soul, it goes more into jazz and it looks into the meaning of life itself, whereas Coco, it talks about what does it, what legacy do you leave when after you lived your life, and the music of course is heavily Mexican themed, but still though, like even with these parallels, like Coco still manages to work extremely well in its own right. It still has a lot of wonderful heart. The characters are enjoyable, and the animation is like breathtaking. Especially when creating the world of like Dia de los Muertos, or even just bringing the living area of Mexico and Miguel's area. It's still a highly wonderful picture. So I think honestly, if you want a Mexican twist to your to your Soul, then Coco is for you.
Yeah. And they're both kind of about your legacies. What do you leave behind? Kind of what. So that's good. All right. Next we have Nimona is our next pick. And I was trying to think of something that was like an adventure, had a similar tone, similar feel. So I went with Kubo and the Two Strings.
Ah, yes.
I think underrated. Beautiful movie, and unique animation style, even though they're different styles. They both, I think, stand out and are unique, and both are adventures where they have to fight off, and so I think that's pretty good. What about you? What do you pick?
For me, honestly, I try to think about Nimona, and I mean, it's easy to try to latch on to the prominent LGBTQ plus themes, but then I realized, well, there is still more to it. And honestly, if you take away the prominent LGBTQ plus themes, which I mean, it's amazing in Nimona, you take away that, and you add more Looney Tunes cartooniness, you pretty much got the Emperor's New Groove. I feel like there are some similarities, especially when you got a buddy comedy and you got one who's trying to, trying to prove that he is innocent, or in Disney's case, that he is still alive. Trying to save his name and stuff like that. And not to mention, there's also the different elements where with the one of the main characters, at least, transforms into a different animal. And that is especially with the Emperor's New Groove, where at the end, you see Cusco transforming into different types of animals because of all the potions he would try to go and consume. But there's still those like little elements where you could still tell that it is Cusco, despite all the different animals that he would become, much like Nimona, when they would transform into all the different animals in a variety.
You're right. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
So yeah, the funny thing is, like, I thought about that when I first thought, okay, maybe I'll just go with the Sword and the Stone because of the Wizard's Duel, but then I realized, no, actually, Emperor's New Groove is a better one to go and attach to.
Yeah. I actually just got to see that at the local repertory theater. They just played it here on the big screen. That was unbelievable. I love Emperor's New Groove. It's so funny.
Oh my god. It's like it's possibly Disney's funniest thing they've ever done. Like,
and honestly, and has their funniest joke when she's like, wrong lever. Why do we even have this lever?
The funny thing is, I'm working on a new video right now, and I do talk about Emperor's New Groove. And I mentioned how, like, what really makes Emperor's New Groove so great is how un-Disney it is. That it decides to, go into a completely different direction than what we know from the studio. And that was
that was a fun part about that post-Renaissance era, is I felt like they kind of were experimental. And some of them really failed, and others were, even if they didn't 100% work, they were interesting. You've got your Treasure Planet, you've got your Atlantis, you've got your, that were Lilo and Stitch. You've got these movies that were different, trying something.
Hot take, much like with what's happening with Disney right now. What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Trust me, wait 10, 20 years. People are going to go and say that.
We'll see. Wish will become the undiscovered classic. Who knows? Who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Exactly. I was about to say. I mean, like, look at the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah. All right. So next we have Flea. Flea nominated for 3 Oscars, which is incredible, and a beautiful
record-breaking even.
Yeah, beautiful movie, documentary. And so I thought, what's another animated documentary also about PTSD, also about dealing with like war and the impacts of war and recovery and all that kind of stuff. Flea is more of like an immigrant story, but still similar. I think I went with Waltz with Bashir. Beautiful. Both have. Waltz with Bashir has more. The animation is more stunning and unique than the animation in Flea. They wanted to find a way to tell the story in Flea without exposing the identity of the individual that they're telling the story to. So that's why they decided to make it animated and not allowed them to be able to do that. Whereas with Waltz with Bashir, I think it was more, this was Ari Folman's artistic ambition to create, to do this. So it's like, but I think that if you like Flea, you should check out Waltz with Bashir.
Oh my God. Waltz with Bashir is a movie that I feel like I absolutely adore, because like it made me fall in love with the concept of animating a documentary, like literally take a documentary and just fully present it as animation. And especially with the storytelling, with what they would go and present with Waltz and Bashir, like I just feel like it's not just great. Like I kind of feel like it's one of those movies I would legit consider to be revolutionary, because like even prior to this, like what other animated documentaries would you know of?
Well, it's interesting because so they when they released that Lego documentary, the Brick by Brick or whatever it was.
Oh, Piece by Piece, yeah.
Everybody was saying, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible that they never heard of an animated documentary." And I'm like, "Hold up, there's been a lot actually." Yeah. So I did a whole video on animated documentaries, and there's been some really cool ones like Tower. Have you ever seen Tower?
No, I'm not as familiar with
It's
Tower.
Really good. It's about this sniper school shooting in Texas in like I think it's let's see, when is it? 1966. Yeah. That one's a really good one. It's intense, of course, but it's a really good one. Anyway, there's more than you think of animated documentaries. It's kind of an interesting little subcategory.
Oh yeah, honestly, it's like it's something not many people know about, but it's like one of those things that there should be more of.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you have for Flea?
For me, with Flea, I mean, that's another one where, like, of course, Waltz with Bashir is an obvious one to go with. But I decided to go with Persepolis, mainly because I do find that there are plenty of those similar themes, especially one that it is an immigrant story. And it also discusses
true story.
Yeah, too. It is a true story as well. And not to mention that there is that socio-political commentary about the climate in the Middle East, with how things are going in there and why some people would have to go and evacuate and try to find life elsewhere. And even with the tone, like, there can be times when it is hard for the main character in Persepolis trying to live as an immigrant, or even living as a woman in her home country. Like, there are those difficulties that she has to deal with, much like with the protagonist in Flea, not only dealing with being an immigrant but also being gay as well. So there are definitely a lot of those parallels, that you have this immigrant story of someone from the Middle East just trying to survive, but there are, of course, many obstacles that they would have to face along the way.
Yeah, it's a good pick. All right, next we have Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0, Thrice Upon a Time. This is the one that I hadn't seen. I'd heard about it, and of course I'd heard of the show, but the series, but I had never seen this. But I was just going off of the summary, which the Evangelions find refuge in one of the rare pockets of humanity that still exist on the ruined planet Earth. There each lives a life far different from their days as an Evangelion pilot. However, the danger to the world is far from over. A new impact is looming on the horizon, one that will prove to be the true end of Evangelion. So reading that summary, again, I haven't seen it. I definitely thought of Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. From Miyazaki. That's also about a leader in a dystopian trying to help her people. And so it just sounded similar to them.
Yeah, I will say, though, that it is a very good choice also, mainly because the director also worked on Nausicaa.
Oh, really?
Hideaki Anno. He actually started out as an animator, and one of his credentials, like, he was actually very noteworthy of working on Nausicaa, like one of the top animators, and like it's part of the reason how that animation just looks so stunning. So he was able to bring that art style onto Evangelion when he would be producing like the series and then the movie, and like, you know, like build it up from there. So there is already a bit of that connection. So like it naturally does fit.
Yeah. So have you seen this?
Not really. No, I haven't gotten into Evangelion just yet. But I mean, it's one of those that, of course, I have heard of it. It's one of those essentials of like, if you want to get into anime, then you have to be familiar with some of these. And like, even, and I know with Evangelion is one of them. That's why for me, like, I don't know if this is cheating, but I decided to go with another popular anime that has like this big movie out there. I went with Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
And a new movie coming out.
Oh, yes, there is that as well.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Honestly, there is a part of me though. I don't know if I want to immediately watch it because I have to catch up with what the plot line is going. Like I've already seen, like I know I've watched the first arc and the first movie. I've seen the entertainment arc, the second one. I've yet to see the like. I need to go and catch up before like fully getting the context of like, all right, what does this epic movie hold? But with Demon Slayer Mugen Train, though, I mean, there are some parallels, of course. Like, you got, like, even though the themes are completely different, especially when Demon Slayer is much more in ancient times, whereas Evangelion is, like, more in the future. But Mugen Train still has, like, a lot of, like, epic anime-like action that could really get you on board. So... and like probably a few other similarities as well. So I would say, yeah, maybe it's like a little bit of a cheap shot there, but I'm going with Mugen Train.
Hey, this is David from the Piecing It Together podcast, a podcast about movies and the movies that inspire them. For over 4 years, each week, a guest and I take a look at a new movie through the lens of what other movies we think were either an influence or connect in some other way. It's a fun, unique way to discuss films that leads to a great list of other movies to check out that either explore the same themes and ideas or maybe utilize similar filmmaking techniques. Including special episodes in our side series that twist the format, we've done over 200 episodes, so there's bound to be one on a film you've been thinking about and want to dig deeper into. So check us out on all the major podcasting apps and at piecingpod.com.
All right, so next we have Robot Dreams, which I love that movie so much. One of my all-time favorites. And I knew that we were going to be using Wild Robot and some of these other ones that might be similar in themes. So I actually went with Robots. This is the Blue Sky movie, and I actually think this is pretty underrated. If you think about the plot, is basically the same plot of Zootopia, but it's just with robots instead of with animals. And the the prejudice against the robots and so I think it was kind of ahead of its time. I mean, the animation for 2005 is really good. The world building, the characters, I like it. I think it's underappreciated for what it is. I feel like it's similar in theme to Robot Dreams in tone and feel.
Yeah, funny enough, it's like Robots, I feel like it's one of those movies where like I remember as a kid, I enjoyed Robots. It was fun, but it's one of those that it's easy to pass off as like another typical like kids film that, oh, you can put it on, the kids will have fun with it and move on. But there is a lot of like intricate layers that it's actually more clever and more well built than, no pun intended, than it actually is.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, yeah, well, you get what I mean. But the thing is with Robots, there is a bit of that social commentary that it would go and discuss. But on top of that, there's something very admirable when it comes to the world building, especially when this is one of those movies from William Joyce. And whenever he would put his creative touch into a movie, rather it be like stuff with Rise of the Guardians or even Blue Sky's Epic, I think like he creates magic with the stuff that he would go and work on. And when I saw like what he did with Robots and like the way the characters are built, and especially like all the different unique robots that you see, it really is admirable. Honestly, like I would have to think about like the connect, like it's hard to really think about because like with Robots, there's so much that it offers, and yet with Robot Dreams, like it shines just through its simplicity. It's hard to really know if like I get the theme of like, oh, one's a like it has a robot, it has robots. It's something I'll admit I'll probably have to think about. It's like what's the big connection?
Well, Robot Dreams is more of a friendship story than Robots is, so they're different in that sense. And so you could even go with like Monsters Inc. Other friendship friendship stories, and I think that's why I loved it so much. Is I'm a big sucker for friendship stories. So I even thought for a second about the much maligned Good Dinosaur, because that is also about a friendship of two characters that don't talk very, or talk little, not a lot. Arlo, I guess, talks some, but not much. So
no, I get what you mean. I could see that with the Good Dinosaur. There is like, I could see that similarity because like it is a journey between two friends.
Yeah,
like a bit of an odd couple situation going on, but they do have this goal as they try to go through. Like they go through this long journey of finding their home in a way.
Yeah. So what did you have for Robot Dreams?
For me, I guess I'll admit I did go in a little similar path where it's mainly just emphasizing on the friendship aspect. But for me, I went with Ernest and Celestine, another indie classic.
I love that movie.
Like a very cute indie classic. Again, another movie that it prides in its own simplicity, where it really is about like these two characters, a bit of an odd match, but eventually, but because of like how society would go and view them, it would be at a point where they would ultimately only have each other. So it's a movie that really does have a lot of heart and a lot of fun when you do watch it. So, it's like one of those movies I would say, like, if you really need something wholesome, if you want like a feel good movie, I think Ernest and Celestine is like one of those easy films, like just to go with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good pick. I love that movie. All right, next we have Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which is a movie I love and adore. So good. Yeah. And I was trying to think, what's a movie about a sweet character that's trying to find his family? And the first one that I thought of is An American Tail, and maybe that's too not obscure enough for this category, but it just fits so perfect. I felt like it's a great pick.
No, I understand, especially like. Yeah, sure. Especially the filmmaking style is very different because Marcel the Shell is more of a mockumentary with the way that they would go and present it, but the themes are still there compared to An American Tail, where you see this cute little character exploring the big human-sized world in order to go and find their family. Although I will say with Marcel the Shell, there is that extra layer with taking care of his aging grandmother that is also like I would say bittersweet, but still like it adds so much to the picture.
Yeah.
Okay, now for my pick, I just want to say, bear with me on this one, people. Before you say anything, just listen, okay? Because if you like Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, I think you'll also like Lilo and Stitch. Now hold on! Wait a minute! I am referring to the original movie. Yes, I know there is that direct connection with the live action remake, but I will say, if there's one thing that Disney did absolutely right.
Oh yeah, the same director.
With the Lilo and Stitch remake is the fact that they chose that particular director to work on it. Like, I completely understand Disney's decision to go and pick Dean Fleischer Camp to go and direct the Lilo and Stitch remake, because you compare Marcel the Shell with Lilo and Stitch, there's a lot of very strong parallels, especially with the theme of family and taking care of family as well. Like, especially when you see Marcel trying to take care of his aging grandmother. You also think about Nani trying to take care of Lilo, or even Lilo trying to take care of Stitch. So you do have a little bit of those parallels where it's more like the heart of those movies that they feel like they share a very similar connection, and that they emphasize the importance of family, even when they're very distant from one another.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Very good. All right. So next we have Wolfwalkers, and I could have easily picked any of the other Tom Moore films because they have very similar themes and they're wonderful and all great. But I decided to go with Wolf Children. And this is a little bit different because this Wolf Children is about a mother and her children, obviously. Whereas Wolfwalkers is about two sisters or two friends that, become sisters. And them, so one is from the perspective of the children and one is from the perspective of the parent, but they're still in a way about parenting and about the struggles of growing up and the struggles of like our clash with nature. They both happen to have wolf people, so that's an easy connection. But both beautifully animated with great music. Both have a lot of heart and soul, and so yeah. They're both worth a watch for sure.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely get it. And especially like I know like with the love of Wolf Children, like I could see like like as a wolf-based movie, like Wolfwalkers and Wolf Children are like the way to go.
Yeah.
For me, I did a little bit similar to you. I didn't want to go directly into like either like The Secret of Kells or Song of the Sea. That would be kind of cheating since they're all part of the Irish folklore trilogy that Cartoon Saloon put out. But there is one movie that Cartoon Saloon did during that time that not many people talk about, but I feel like is about as good as those pictures, and that is The Breadwinner. The Breadwinner it's pretty much very similar. It is what you would expect from Cartoon Saloon, except it does have a bit of a Middle Eastern twist. Or if I would go into the specifics, specifically in Afghanistan. But I will say though, it does share more stronger parallels to what we've talked about with Flea or Waltz with Bashir.
Yeah.
Or even
I thought of that for definitely thought of that for Flea.
Or even Persepolis as well. Like there are like a lot of those parallels, but it's more the artistry that feels very similar. Like the animation itself can be extremely stylistic, especially when the main character, which is well, I just want to double check with Parvana would go and tell the stories. Like you could tell the animation style goes something into a more abstract and stylistic direction that is beautiful, but also gets into the heavy themes of that particular country. So it's basically the Cartoon Saloon approach of what they have done with Ireland, with all those previous films. They did the same thing with Afghanistan with The Breadwinner. And while it is a lot heavier to watch than the Irish movies, it's still worth a watch and it's still well done.
Definitely. Another one I thought of is Princess Mononoke. I feel like that it has a lot of, I mean, I'm sure, of course, how could he not be? I'm sure Tom Moore was very inspired by Princess Mononoke. Yeah. So, all right. Next, we have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And again, I didn't want to go with. I was trying to think outside the box, and I thought of what is a movie that has like a similar style of action that is fast moving and kinetic and exciting. And one I thought of is Lupin the Third, going back to, this is just a Miyazaki love fest, but going back to his Lupin movie, just the way that the action is staged is very similar to a lot of the action in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is a huge compliment to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. But y'all know how much I love and adore. There's so many ways you could go off it because it has three basic stories all combined together. But that's what I went with.
No, I understand. And I mean, like, DreamWorks in general, especially as of late, has been inspired by Lupin the Third. Like, not just this, but especially with the bad guys as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could say, like, the bad guys can be interpreted as an American Lupin the Third, in a sense.
I never thought about that, but you're right. That's a good point.
Yeah, but with Castle of Cagliostro especially, that's a movie that it really is a lot of fun and like has a lot of the creative action and world exploration that they would do. So I get it. For me, however, I feel like this is a more direct one, but this movie in particular doesn't get talked about as much The Last Wish. And even though like maybe it's not as good, I just say it's like just one step down, but still very good. For me, that is the original Puss in Boots back in 2011.
Yeah.
The thing with that movie, like that's the one where they tried their first shot to give Puss in Boots his own movie, and that's where you like, and of course, like if you enjoy the Last Wish, then you'll get more context into like some of the other characters that he would get to meet, including Kitty as well, and plus the fact like you go into his origins while it does still stay within the theming of or the world building of Shrek, where it's still heavily based on fairy tales. I mean, sure, you don't get that crazy stylistic animation. It's like the animation here is a lot closer to what the Shrek movies were, but still, I think it's a lot of fun. You still get a lot of like creative, great action in the feature. So from there, honestly, I'd say as much as like The Last Wish is getting a lot of love, I think the original should also get some great love as well.
And I personally think, I don't know if you agree, but I think that Antonio Banderas as Puss in Boots is one of the peak celebrity voice acting performances. It's like you can't imagine anybody else playing that role.
Honestly, it depends on which version you're talking about, because like I do agree with what you say for sure. But the thing is, it's funny how like to think about Puss in Boots, like in all the other Shrek movies and the first Puss in Boots, like he has a distinct personality. But then you got The Last Wish, where I feel like it did like update tremendously. It's like, I am a Puss in Boots. I have a huge ego.
You do a pretty good one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of times those are just so they can have that end card with the huge list of celebrity names. They don't really add anything meaningful, but I think that it's just like a perfect marriage. So you got your a voice and character. You've got your, Tom Hanks and Woody. You've got of course Genie and Robin Williams. I mean, there's just these iconic James Earl Jones and Mufasa. These iconic celebrity voice acting roles, and I would put Antonio Banderas pretty high up there.
Yeah, I understand the complaints about how celebrity voices can go a little too overboard,
especially in the Illumination movies, especially,
or Chris Pratt.
That's true.
But I will say, when they work, they could be amazing. They could be legendary, or not to mention, like there could be some that like they could start out with a voice and it's like it's still perfect either way. Like Ali Cravalho made her debut as Moana.
That's true.
That in itself is all.
Jodie Benson.
Jodie Benson.
Yeah. That'd be good. All right. Next we have the Wild Robot. And for me, the big thing that made the Wild Robot special, aside from the animation, is the theme of nurturing. And I really debated because I was like, I could put Wolf Children. That would be a great pick because it's all about nurturing and mothering. Mm-hmm. But I decided instead to go with Tokyo Godfathers because it's about it's about these misfits. It's about this misfit group that get this baby and how it changes them and how they try to find the mother and their characters and their personalities and what that does to having to care for somebody in a new way. And so I think that would be a good sub out for a Wild Robot.
Oh, I could see that. Especially with especially with the theme of nurturing, and not to mention, like, this is one that it's pretty much a holiday movie. You didn't expect that.
That's true.
A holiday movie, yes, Christmas is in the background, but it's only until you think about it is like, oh yeah, it kind of is a Christmas movie in a way. But with my pick, it would be nice if we could talk about the Wild Robot, but it looks like we've already discussed about it, so screw that plan. But for me, I tried to think about like what else could be a good comparison with the Wild Robot, and while I didn't go with the nurturing route, I honestly stuck with the robot theme, and for me, I went with Wall-E, because there kind of is this theme, like with the Wild Robot, like I think about the intro and like what it would eventually become. And there is kind of like this theme where it starts out in isolation, where the robot is on their own, rather it be with Roz or with Wall-E, that they're just there and they don't really have anyone else and try to figure out like what to do with themselves. And it wasn't until that they meet a newer character where they do find their purpose, rather it be with the little Gosling for Roz or with Eve with Wall-E. So instead of nurturing, it's about love. And that's where like they kind of go into a bit of a similar but different path with where they lead their lives of like trying to find their purpose, trying to be there for the individual that they care or grew a heart for. They do meet some other like mischievous characters along the way, rather it be with Roz and the other animals, or with Wall-E and some of the other broken down robots, or the people in the big by and large ship. So I will admit, like, maybe the similarities are vague, but they are still there.
Yeah, I can see that.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Next, we have Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And this was a hard one not to just pick, Pinocchio movie. But what I went with is a movie that I think is also about a misfit and sort of an unlikely friendship with that Pinocchio has with Jiminy, and a little story. I picked Mary and Max. Also has sort of a dark, edgy kind of humor in a way. And they're very, very different kind of stories. But I think if somebody really likes Pinocchio, I think they might like Mary and Max, full stop motion.
Yeah, I do see it. One thing I want to say, like a quick honorable mention, technically Persepolis can also be included, especially when Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is an it's about anti-fascism and anti-authoritarianism, much like with Persepolis, that does highlight the terrors of authoritarianism, especially with what happened or what's probably still happening in the Middle East. But for me, however, I decided to go with one that is still very fresh, but maybe not as popular. This is something that I have seen at the Fantasia Film Festival. This is called I Am Frankelda. Now, Rachel, I don't know if you recall a few years back on HBO Max, there was this miniseries called Frankelda's Book of Spooks. Have you seen it?
I don't know.
No? Okay, well, this is it was a stop motion miniseries, and now they decided to go and make a whole movie out of it. Now, this is actually done by the Ambrose brothers, and they were actually mentored by Guillermo del Toro himself. And maybe like this comparison is not as like strong of it, but this is more like if you enjoy the works of Guillermo del Toro, or especially Pinocchio, because this is also stop motion, then I would really recommend I Am Frankelda as well, especially with the fact that this is also a musical. And even though
it is?
Yeah, it is a musical, and they go like full on operatic as well. And even
I
though
have to watch this. I love Cinderella movies. They're like my favorite.
Oh, honestly, I feel like this is one that, if more people would watch it, they would immediately get hooked. And I mean, probably the same way that a lot of people are hooked on K-pop Demon Hunters. I could sense that same one, especially when there is a bit of a romance plot, but it's especially with the world building where it has that similar fantasy macabre that you would find in the works of Guillermo del Toro, because Frankelda would go into the land of the spooks where she would go and see all these demons and all these monsters and stuff like that, and go into the kingdom where they would go develop dreams and nightmares and stuff like that. It's very beautiful, honestly.
Yeah.
This is one that,
that sounds good.
Yeah, from what I've heard, or according to the Ambers brothers, because they were actually there when I went to the premiere, they said, I believe in October, it's going to be released in Mexico, but I don't know when it's going to be coming out, like, internationally, or especially if there's going to be an English dub. I would love to see more people experience this, because it is fantastic.
I'm definitely going to have to keep an eye out for that, because I love Cinderella stories. You know, another one I thought of is Over the Garden Wall. That would be a really good sub out for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
That actually makes sense, considering Patrick McHale is a writer of Pinocchio.
Yeah, they even did a stop motion short for Over the Garden Wall.
Yeah, with Aardman. Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So that would be a really good one too. All right, next we're almost done. We have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse or Into the Spider-Verse, both of them. And I decided to go with a little obscure animated film called Phantom Boy. And Phantom Boy is about a boy that's in the hospital. He's sick, and he develops the ability to separate from his body and leave the hospital, and he ends up helping this detective who is also in the hospital, trying to solve this case that's happening. And it has a beautiful, much like Spider-Verse, it has a beautiful, unique visual style, different style, but still unique. And it has some heart, it has some soul. It's by the same people who did A Cat in Paris, which would also be a pretty decent sub out, I think, for Spider-Verse. They have a unique visual aesthetic, and it has those, some superhero vibes and young teen boy vibes and things like that. So it's one under the radar that people should check out.
Honestly, the way you described it, or at least like with the premise, with how it starts out, it also feels similar to Soul in a way.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, and even seeing like the animation and the style that they would do, it feel like there's a little bit of like those parallels to Soul, even with how like he would come out of his body, or how like only like, having characters that only use lines to go and depict them. So I can see that similarity.
Yeah, and if you have the Canopy Library app, it's free to watch on there, so you can watch it for free. So what did you have for Spider-Verse?
Well, honestly, like I thought about a few. Like one that I thought would be a good fit would be the Peanuts movie. And even though like in tone they would be different, the Peanuts movie, like even long before Spider-Verse, innovated that style, taking CG animation and like highly stylize it to match more with the comic aesthetic. So
yeah, it doesn't get the credit it deserves for what it did there with its unique animated hybrid. It really, really broke new grounds for that hybrid animation.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's often the story. I'm gonna get into this soon, but I feel like that's kind of the story of Blue Sky, where like they would innovate a lot of different animation styles, and then you see other people taking credit. Like
that's true.
Even Horton Hears a Who, I feel like doesn't get as much credit of really pushing that cartoony style into CG animation.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But anyways, that's just for the Peanuts movie. But what I feel like is a great recommendation is another movie I feel like doesn't get as much credit, but honestly, I really like this movie, the Lego Batman movie. Yeah. And this one, I feel like so far, this is DC's answer to the Spider-Verse films, especially when you do have that stylistic CG animation, but depicted in Legos. But where the Spider-Verse movies, it would honor the entire legacy of the Spider-Man franchise. That's what you also get with the Lego Batman movie, but with Batman. But of course, being a Lego movie, it would go present that in a more comical and fun-filled way. I wouldn't say satirical or parody. While it does poke fun at a few things, it's more like it's like a fun homage that does not take itself seriously. And I'm going to say a hot take here, but honestly, I find the Lego Batman movie is better than the Lego movie because of that extra layer of how it pays homage to Batman's legacy, and especially pretty much taking the funniest character of the original movie and just give him his own feature and really play up with the character. It's a lot of fun to go and check out if you if you enjoy Batman. It's really, it's a lot of fun to get into and see like the unique ways that it would present the DC universe or how it just plays up with the different characters. So honestly, like this is more like it's like Spider-Verse, but a lot more it emphasizes more on the comedy than it does the action.
Yeah. No, I can see that for sure. I think the only thing that to me makes the Lego movie better is actually the non-animated section. That whole live action bit with the boy and his dad, that gets me every time. I love that. It is a very clever twist. I will give it to you. It's so moving.
I mean, this isn't discrediting the Lego movie.
No. I totally get what you're saying. I mean, actually, Lego Movie would be a decent sub out for Mitchell's and the Machines. Now that I think about it, also about a dad and because of that live action element.
Not a bad suggestion, honestly. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm. So last one is The Boy and the Heron. So I was trying to think, what is a movie about a young boy that's sort of dealing with the afterlife, dealing with loss, grief, those themes. And I thought of Paranorman, because I didn't want to just do a Miyazaki. or Ghibli. I wanted to something else. So other Paranorman, I think you could see some similarity between the two lead characters and the spirits and their things like that. And both excellent movies in their own way.
Yeah, I could see that. Like with Paranorman, though, it does lean a lot more into the undead aspect of it, like trying to be its own zombie movie in a sense. But like, I could see it like with Mahito and Norman's adventure, like kind of the journey they have to go through. And understanding death and stuff like that. They both have a forgiveness journey that they have to do, which I think is moving. Oh yeah, I definitely do understand. Well, also like a lot of innovative animation, it is like Paranorman's animation, like just like with what Studio Ghibli did with Boy and the Heron. It is very stunning, especially like the finale was so jaw dropping. Like I remember even watching it in theaters. It's like just seeing him confront the actual witch. It's like, oh my goodness! It's like, yo, what just happened? That was incredible.
Yeah, I do. I think Paranorman is not the kind of like Peanuts movie, deserves more credit than it gets sometimes. It was really, really a good one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, for my pick, this is actually something I saw about a few weeks ago, actually. And this is still relatively fresh, and not many people have seen it because the release is still pretty limited, but I still think it is very solid. It's The Glass Worker. This is noted to be Pakistan's first hand-drawn animated feature. And this is a movie where you could very much tell that it really wants to be Studio Ghibli, but surprisingly enough, it's actually a very solid attempt of one. Now, I'm not saying that, like, the glassworker is on par to the craftsmanship done in The Boy and the Heron. Like, you could tell that, like, it's still trying to be it, and, like, maybe it would have a few points down where it doesn't necessarily truly have its own voice, but still, though, like, what it tries to do and the effort put into it is still highly admirable. Like, the animation is very lovely to watch, like, especially with the detailed backgrounds that they would go and create, and even just like even just the just in terms of the animation with what they would go and depict and how, like, they would show the intricacy of it, like, especially when you see the characters actually making glass work. Like, it is very admirable with what they would do. And not to mention, even the storyline, it does feel very similar to a Studio Ghibli film, especially something like Whisper of the Heart, for example, when you do have the story of or even Kiki's Delivery Service, when you have the story of these two kids, and, like, from time to time they would pass on, they would see each other, and, like, sometimes you might see their friendship bloom maybe into something more, but then there are some obstacles that can happen. And from there, though, I will say also, like, this is another movie, once again, considering that it is in Pakistan, of course, it does get into the aspect of war, similar to something like either Persepolis or Waltz with Bashir, or even a little bit with The Breadwinner as well, where the war aspect does make it pretty heavy. I mean, it is, like, sure, the anti-war aspect is a similar thing to what you would find in a Studio Ghibli film or in a Hayao Miyazaki movie. But in this case here, it does help to go and make things intense. Like, yeah, you'll have your little sweet moments with the two main characters, but then there are times when, like, when the country goes to war or when they're being invaded, yeah, that's when things can, like, get death-defying and pretty serious at the same time. So they know how to play with the emotional tones. So that's a great aspect. But then you have the music. Oh my God! If there is one thing that I would say,
it's a musical.
No, not exactly. It's not a musical, but it's mainly. The music, I'd say, is the closest to actually getting it exactly like a Studio Ghibli film, especially when it is very reminiscent to a Joe Hisaishi soundtrack. Like it's not a musical, but there are times when they just let the music play, like, to let that be prominent. And oh my God, honestly, it sounds crazy, but out of all the animated films that I've seen this year so far in 2025, The Glassworker has my favorite soundtrack. It really is that good. And trust me, like, it's the thing that I would say is on par with what you would get with Joe Hisaishi. So yeah, with
I had let that one slip, but I have an email from the publicist. I need to follow up because that sounds great. I definitely need to see that for sure.
Yeah, that's one you shouldn't actually miss out on. I recommend, like, if you enjoy the Studio Ghibli films, this is another one where, like, yeah, you could tell, like, it's trying to be Studio Ghibli, but it's not Studio Ghibli, but it's still very good as is.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, speaking of Joe Hisaishi, do you know that he's doing the music for that A Big Bold Beautiful Journey live action?
No,
the one with Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie.
Really?
Yeah. But there we go. We did it. And so I think this was so much fun. Thank you so much for doing this. Let us know what you think of our suggestions. What would you suggest for all of these movies? Like I said, we'll put the list in the description. You definitely take a look at that. If you want to make your own videos or your own posts, you can tag us with your picks, all of that. On Letterboxd, you could do it. We would love to see. And so, Matt, where can people find you?
Well, a bunch of places, actually. My main one, of course, is on YouTube with my YouTube channel, Electra Dragon 505. I also do have a Patreon if you want to go and support my work and get some extra fun rewards, including seeing my videos before anyone else. I also do have a podcast, Animat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, that I do just about every week, talking about the latest animation news that is going around and that people are talking about. But at the same time, you could also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky as Mat Brunet or Animat. And if there's any others, no, I think that should go and cover it.
Okay, good. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over the place. Definitely check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps so much. If you're watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. Also have Patreon, where we have lots of fun bonuses. And we have our merch store. You get #AnimationJunkie shirts. So check that out. And check out our playlist for all of our great animated content over there. And thanks again, Matt. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
See you later, dudes.